G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and I've had the pleasure of filming with a number of different Volkswagens here on the channel. The GTIs that I've done, the Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6 and Mark 7 Golf R were all very fine cars, but I have to admit the dual clutches, the 2-litre turbos, while objectively they're very good, they are a little bit characterless, shall we say. But my opinion of Volkswagens being a little bit boring changed completely when I reviewed a Mark 4 VR5, which had one of the most insane exhaust sounds I had ever heard in my entire life. And while it was incredibly slow, because it was only a little 2.3 litre V5 engine, it was an absolute hoot to drive. And I've been told that these Mark 4 R32s are even better. So today we're going to see what it's all about. In terms of exterior styling, this particular one here looks stunning in this immaculate blue colour. The black wheels contrast the rest of the car very nicely, and while the Mark 4 is perhaps not the most loved of all of the Golfs that they've made, I think that they look really cool. The engine is a 3.2 litre VR6, and it fits into that unusual family of VR and W engines that Volkswagen Group had going back in the 2000s. They obviously had that 2.3 litre VR5 that they put in the Mark 4 Golf that I reviewed a couple of months ago. They had this VR6, the W8 Passat, which effectively is two VR4s joined together at the crank, the W12 in the Bentley Continental, and the W16 in the Bugatti Veyron. All of them have that unusually narrow crank angle, which means that they share a common head, and thus you can fit a great big 3.2 litre V6 under the bonnet of a tiny little Golf. This particular one here is pretty potent. It makes 177 kilowatt, 240 horsepower, 320 newton meters, and it's paired up with a delightful 6-speed manual transmission going to all 4 wheels through a Haldex 4-wheel drive system. And this one has an intake and an exhaust on it, which makes it sound fantastic. And finally, the interior. I must say, I might get crucified for this, but I actually prefer the Mark 4 interior to the Mark 5. I think that the build quality is a little bit better. I really like the steering wheel on these. The gauges show all of the information that you need in a very clear fashion, and at night it lights up in a really cool looking blue color. The climate control system is very easy to use, and the rest of the interior, it just looks nice. The seats are very aggressively bolstered, hold you in extremely well, but I can tell that they're still really nice and comfortable, which is excellent. The manual change on this 6-speed box feels tremendously good. There's a decent amount of rear legroom. The boot is pretty small, but it's still relatively practical for a fairly small hatchback. And overall, this is just a car that is well built, well put together, nice use of materials and so on, but still has a very, very driver-focused feeling to it. Driving the Mark 4 Golf R32. Oh, there's such a good amount of power. Oh, and the rev match is so perfect on this. And the ride is excellent. Very smooth and comfortable. The only thing is the throttle response is very sensitive, so you've got to be quite sort of gentle in your throttle inputs. The steering's nice, and it's not too loud and drony. But of course, what you guys really want to see is what happens when we open this VR6 up. And the answer is quite a lot. Oh, that is beautiful. That is such a lovely noise. Oh my goodness. These VR6s, man. Some people say they sound a little bit 350Z. They're quite shrill in their tone, but I love them, man. I think they sound absolutely fantastic. And then you get it out of the motorway, and it has that typical German car quietness. The RE003s help because they are quite a quiet tyre. But overall, you've got a little bit of noise from behind, but the road noise is quiet. It's comfortable, there's no squeaks or rattles anywhere. For a car that's done 220,000 Ks, mate, you have to admit, it's held up really well indeed. And I just love how, oh, it's so easy to heel toe. Transmission feels so nice, but it's interesting because it's such a light, effortless throw. One finger, easy. And while it's not that fast, it's a usable car, and that's why these things were popular, man, especially the Mark 5, not so much the Mark 4, but the Mark 5s are very popular, just because it's such a usable amount of power. It makes a beautiful noise, cracking manual transmission. The exhaust and intake combination he's got on this is just perfect, and it's such a mint car too for the Ks. Taking the off-ramp, Oh. Oh, and the burbles too. The handling is really good too. Stability at speed is excellent. And man, it's such a nice sounding engine. This is fantastic, man. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly have. I would definitely recommend one of these, man. Cracking cars. Brilliant noise, stunning to drive. Oh, this is really, really nice.